Hey there, welcome to day 317 of our Get Your Goals annual challenge. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here, and today we are going to talk about physical goals, and we're going to do a summary of what we've talked about in May. We covered physical well-being, physical health, physical goals in May. We're working our way through all of the different areas of the Life Framework 9, I call it that, because I've got 9 areas that I look at as I am organizing my life. I used to focus primarily on financial and business and totally ignored, for the most part, my health. I did what I needed to do to barely survive, which came back to haunt me in 2010 with a sudden cardiac arrest. But changed a whole lot of things in my life based on that experience. And one of them is how I organize and set up my life. I took it a lot more seriously following that event than before that. Before I didn't really know what I didn't know. I didn't realize that I was focusing way too much on a couple areas of my life that weren't really even highest priority and most important to me. I convinced myself that they were the most important things, and that if I had them right, which, you know, right, my definition of right or success back then was really, really messed up. At least messed up to how I really want to live my life. So let's talk about the topics that we talked about in May with respect to our physical well-being and health. I'm going to do a little full disclosure here. This is how I plan my content. I actually take a physical calendar, and you'll notice, I'll go back and even show you that in January and February, I didn't do it at all. I didn't start doing it until March with my annual challenge, which I don't recommend. I recommend that you map out, if you're going to do a long-term thing or any project, that you map it out ahead of time. I knew what I was going to do. I knew what I was going to talk about, but I created it along the way. In January, we looked at a bunch of different goal frameworks. And so I didn't know, well, how do I do each framework? And I could have done it, put it on my calendar, but I did not. And then in February, when we jumped into emotional, because it was February and I was having a new grandbaby coming, and it is my son and my one of my other granddaughter's birthdays in February. So February is just a fun month with a lot of love and a lot of emotion. And so I wanted to do emotion, but I didn't map out my topics, and I didn't really start to create some consistency throughout the year until March, when I hit, what do we do in March? Mental. We did mindset and mental well-being in March. So anyway, just wanted to show you that this is what I do now. And I did it last year too, but I think it took me a month or two last year before I said, okay, I need to calendar this. I need to go through, I need to plan out, at least have a topic for each day that I'm going to talk about as we go throughout the challenge, so that there's some sense to it, right? So in May, when we talked about physical well-being and physical health, the first thing we did is we defined what is physical well-being. What does physical health look like to you? Have you ever been at what you thought was your prime best health ever? And I would say, you know, most people say, oh, when I was in high school, I was in great health. I will say when I was about 14 or 15, I think I was in really normal mindset, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health. But after that, I was inundated by all of the things around me, all the things that a lot of us human beings go through, comparing ourselves to others, having experiences that we built on that chipped away at our self-esteem. But honestly, even beyond that, I would say in my 20s, my mid-20s, I was in super duper good health, perfect health physically. And 2011 was probably one of my best years ever. It was the year after my sudden cardiac arrest, and I actually started paying attention to my physical well-being and my physical health. I started paying attention to exercise and movement, and I went through cardiac rehab, and I set my one of my first super memorable online goals that I shared, or not online, annual goals that I shared with other people, and got beat up like crazy about it. Everybody's like, nah, you can't do that. That's not realistic. You'll never make that happen. And if you knew me before my sudden cardiac arrest, my family is who was saying those things. I absolutely, totally could understand why they said those things. But I took that naysaying and I used it as fuel. Every time I thought I wasn't or didn't feel like doing my goal for that year, I got re-energized about it, because I was darn sure I was going to prove them all wrong. And that was the first year that I said, hey, I'm going to exercise every day for a year, every single day for a year. And I think I went 8 years before I missed a day. Literally, I couldn't get out of bed and couldn't walk. I had a health challenge in 2017, beginning of 2017. It was just kind of out of the blue crazy. And if I look back now, I think it's because it was to tell me I wasn't on the right track with the thing that I was doing with respect to my life and business and everything. And so big lessons learned there that we find as we do things like annual challenges and we look at parts of our life that we maybe haven't looked at before. So first we defined what well-being and ideal health and good health and physical well-being is for us. And then we covered our core values. What are our core values with respect to our physical well-being and health? We talked about our thoughts and beliefs, because our thoughts and our beliefs, which are just thoughts we think often or that are tied to significant emotional events, those run in our subconscious and we're usually not even aware that they're running, but they totally impact everything that we see or won't see, that we'll pay attention to, that we'll even notice as opportunities for us. We talked about stuff that comes up to get our attention. And I've had a lot of experiences where stuff has physically happened to me and come up to get my attention. And doing the Lifeline exercise, which we did this month as well, or during the physical well-being challenge as well, or the physical goals part of our focus on the life framework. What I noticed is when I have big physical challenges, it's because there's something in my life I'm not seeing. And right now I'm actually legally blind, have been since, well, for a long time, but since 2019 officially, like, because the government says so. I guess took my driver's license. I didn't even know it was gone until the 2020 election when I wanted to register to vote. I'm like, oh, I don't have a driver's license. So I had to apply for a state ID, which is the same thing, but you're not allowed to drive. So what we think and the things that happen in our life, they're really experiences and messages for us, but we have to be willing to see that and look for the message and look for the meaning in them. We did the 7 Whys exercise. We did a rating of our current level of health. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not good at all, you're probably in bed and barely able to do anything, 10 being the best shape, the best health you've ever had physically. We rated ourselves in that. Then we thought about an area to improve, and of course, applied the SOAP framework to that area, right? Anytime we have a challenge, a setback, a problem, we want to use a framework or some problem-solving tool to help us deal with it as quickly and efficiently as possible. And the tool I use is called the SOAP framework. Why? Because I named it during the pandemic when everybody was facing some sort of challenge that they hadn't anticipated and generally had very little, if any, control over. The only thing we really had control over was how are we going to react and respond to this situation. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people's businesses were shut down. It was crazy. I remember walking downtown in my little town, like the week that this all came out and all happened, and businesses were just shut down, dark, locked up. Some had signs on their doors saying, hey, we're shut down due to the pandemic. Others, just nothing. They just locked the doors and went home. And again, that was an example of how you choose to respond and react to things, right? So we apply our SOAP framework. We did that. And I think physically, let me see if I wrote down what I did mine as. Physical, I know. Holy buckets, how did I forget this? I was coming up on my heart surgery in May. I found out my box failed a few times at the end of April, and immediately my awesome heart surgeon said, yeah, we need to take care of that. Turns out that there's some kind of a recall or something on my old box. Supposedly now I have a new and improved one. It's supposed to be smaller, but it is definitely not smaller. Finally getting used to it now that it's November. But that was my topic, and that was my challenge then that I applied the SOAP framework to, because I needed to go to a pre-op and physical and things like that, and I had to do a couple of things. And I went into that surgery with 0 instructions because they never showed up. I never got them before the surgery. That's how quickly they did it. And so the week of me doing the SOAP framework was the week that I actually had that internal cardiac device replacement surgery. So I'm happy to say it went awesome. It was way better than I had expected it was going to be. I guess after the first time in 2010, when I got the first one and had literally dropped dead in one of my businesses, and lucky for me, one of the people working in that establishment knew CPR until the emergency people got there. It was a long haul. That was like a 6 month and then really trailed into a year recovery period. And so a lot changed with that. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, not financially, but with relationships and everything. We talked about the importance of breathing, sleep, hydration, nutrition, supplements, energy, health, and illness, because I've had, and then illnesses and diagnoses, and the frustration that comes with not being diagnosed with something. We talked about the impact of our environment, movement, exercise. We did the Lifeline exercise tool, which I talked about that a little earlier. We talked about how our physical well-being is connected to all the other areas of the life framework and how important it is. But it's one of the first things that we neglect when we get busy. My granddaughter says, I'm so busy. Leave me alone. I'm so busy. She's 2. And when we are so busy, we don't sleep. We don't eat right. We don't breathe. We don't take care of ourselves. We get more stress, and all of that takes a toll on our body. We talked about personal power and responsibility, and then we went into our 7-step goal process that we identified in January, and we're using for each area and aspect of our life. And the goal, I'm going to look and see what I did, because our action item today is to think about all the things we talked about, think about our physical well-being, and then take and review or do an audit and a process check of where are you with the goal that you set for yourself in the area of physical well-being and physical health. And I said, I'm going to walk every day. And I have missed a couple of days. And when I miss a day, I do something else. Like if I can't walk, I ride my exercise bike. We're getting into winter, so I'd imagine that now I'll be riding my bike a lot more than I am walking outside. I love to walk outside in the winter, but I don't like the cold that much anymore. The older I get, the less I love the cold. I do love the snow and the beautiful, but I also don't like the ice because falling down. The older you get, the less you like falling down. So that's it. I'm not usually at a loss for words, but action item. What are we going to do today? We are going to think about these topics, review where we're at with respect to our physical goal, and if we need to make tweaks and changes to the plans that we made and the strategies and the action items and the milestones and the checkpoints of our 7-step goal process, we're going to do that today. Of course, there's a write-up in Guide 17 of the Get Up and Go Challenge private Facebook group. If you haven't joined that yet, go ahead and join that. There's so much information in there. There are all the 30-plus day challenges I did in 2020, 2021, 2020, last year's annual challenge. All of the videos are in there. This year's annual challenge, all of the videos are in there in Guide 16. And in Guide 17 is a write-up that I'm testing and playing with ChatGPT, the artificial intelligence, to write supplemental information for the topics that we're talking about every day. And I think maybe at the end of the year, I will clean that all up and turn it into a book. And if you participated in the challenge, it'll be available, of course, to you for free, just the ebook. And I doubt that I'll publish it because I think it's over 1,000 pages long already. So even if I edit it out and fix it, it's going to be a pretty thick piece of information. So that's it. Any questions, hit me up. Otherwise, have an awesome day. And I'll, of course, see you tomorrow. And we are going to focus on and look at the mental area and aspect of our life tomorrow. Have a great day. And I'll, of course, see you tomorrow.